The film begins with a frightened child who has had a mark on his face since birth, running from someone in heavy snow. After a while, the boy falls on the slippery ground, and someone who cannot be seen starts throwing snow on top of him. A few days later, the boy's parents, very worried, talk to people about his disappearance. The case became very famous in the city, while the mother tells that he went out to play as he always did, but never came back home. Soon after, they show various news reports revealing that many people have disappeared in the nearby mountains. Most of the disappearances happened in recent years, and people think that more than 100 people suddenly vanished in that place. Despite all the police work, nobody knows where these people are. The story then moves to the present day, where we see 5 friends going to the mountains to have fun. The group has 2 couples, Erik and Jannicke, and Mikkel and Ingunn, who started dating recently. The last member of the group is a single guy named Morten. He's so lonely that he jokes saying his hand is his girlfriend. Morten asks if Eirik and Jannicke are going to move in together. Eirik says yes, but Jannicke says no. After a while, they arrive where they wanted, far from the city. The group immediately starts climbing a big mountain. They chose this quiet place because they didn't want to wait in lines and ski with thousands of other people. When they reached the top, they were speechless with the beautiful view. Ingunn asks Jannicke about her moving in with Eirik. Jannicke says she's not ready, afraid they might get tired of each other. After talking for a bit, everyone starts skiing down the mountain. At first, they have a lot of fun showing how well they can ski and doing cool moves. But soon, something bad happens. Morten loses control and has an accident. The others rush to see how he is and realize he broke his leg. Hey, what would you do if you were trapped in a hotel with a serial killer? The movie I'm going to summarize is called Pr3y. In English, C0ld Pr3y. It's a very good movie that mixes horror and suspense. I remember watching the first and second ones when I was a child, and only as an adult did. I discovered that this movie is Norwegian. I highly recommend watching it. That's why I invite you to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave a like to receive the best recaps. The friends quickly put a cloth around to stop the bleeding, and Jannicke as a nurse puts the bone in place. This solves the problem for now, but Morten still needs medical help. The problem is that because of the bad weather and being so high up, the cell phones don't work. Jannicke thinks it will take too long to go back to the city to get help, so she starts looking around until she sees a building in the distance. Since Morten can't walk, the group makes a sled for him and takes him to the shelter. When they get there, they see that the building is much bigger than they thought. Eirik tries to open the main gate, but it's locked. Thinking the building is abandoned, he climbs up to a window, breaks the glass and enters. Then he opens the main gate, letting everyone in. The place looks like a hotel, as it has many keys hanging on the walls, but it's all dirty and abandoned, as if no one had used it for a long time. There's no electricity either, so the group decides to take care of Morten on their own. Jannicke asks her friends to light a fire and bring drinks, as she wants to take care of Morten's leg using a splint. After searching through the house, Mikkel finds some bottles of liquor, and Jannicke finds a rifle bullet that she doesn't pay much attention to, and some glue. Luckily, Ingunn has pain medication in her bag, so they can start taking care of Morten's injuries. Jannicke carefully removes the bandages from the wound, cleans it with alcohol, and puts glue on the edges. Now that Morten is better, the group decides to spend the night there and leave early the next day. Eirik, Mikkel, and Ingunn go explore the place, while Jannicke stays with Morten. The 3 walk through the dark corridor and see several rooms on both sides. They also notice that the emergency axe is not in its place, but don't give it much importance. Then they go to the basement, where the generator is. Eirik fiddles with the controls, trying to get the lights back on. Meanwhile, Morten and Jannicke are talking when the main door suddenly opens. Jannicke goes to check, but doesn't find anyone outside, only sees a shadow that made her curious. Eirik manages to turn on the generator, and the whole house lights up and even starts playing music. Eirik happily goes looking for his girlfriend, while Ingunn and Mikkel decide to walk around the place, where they smell something burning. Looking further, they find a scary room that seems to have caught fire in the past. Everything inside turned to ashes, including the bed and furniture. Later, everyone gathers in the living room to have fun. They put on music, drink, and play. Yannick is reading the hotel's guest book, which has many guest notes. She finds a strange note written by a guest that says, "We know you'll find your boy." This is the last note written in the diary from 1975, almost 30 years ago. The group wonders if someone disappeared, and Yannick also finds a photo of a family, parents with their son, and it's the same boy we saw at the beginning of the film. After the party, Mikkel and Ingunn go to a room to be alone. They can barely wait to make out. Yannick and Eirik also sleep in the same bed, but decide to stay close to Morten to take care of him. Mikkel tries to make a move on Ingunn, but she doesn't let him, saying she's not ready. This makes Mikkel very angry, so he stops trying and says she was just playing with him. Ingunn tries to explain that she loves him very much and just wants to get to know him better first, but he leaves angrily. Mikkel goes downstairs and starts drinking because he's upset. Now alone, Ingunn decides to take a bath, but when she turns on the faucet, someone passes behind her and she goes to see who it is, thinking it's her boyfriend. She grabs her things to go back to her friends when, suddenly, a mysterious person stabs her from behind. Ingunn screams with all her strength, but the guys downstairs don't hear because of the loud music. Bleeding heavily, she runs down the corridor and almost reaches the room where her boyfriend is drinking. But the killer knocks her down and drags her away. Upset for not being able to be intimate with Ingunn, Mikkel drinks a lot, while Jannicke and Eirik take Morten to urinate since he can't walk. When he comes back, Yannick, seeing Mikkel down, talks to him. When Mikkel discovers that Ingunn was a virgin, he realizes he messed up. Mikkel thinks she's angry about what he said before, so he decides to give her some time. The next morning, Mikkel goes to her room with breakfast. He knocks on the door and apologizes for what he said. But when she doesn't answer, he leaves the breakfast on the floor and goes away. Downstairs, Eirik is ready to leave to look for help. Before going, he has a romantic moment with Jannicke. Without him knowing, she puts the key to her house in his pocket. After saying goodbye to everyone, Eirik leaves the house. The weather is still bad, but he's determined to find help for his friends. When he notices the key that was in his pocket, he gets happy. He starts walking in the heavy snow, but when he gets a little further, he sees blood marks in the snow. Scared, he follows the marks and finds Ingunn dead on the ground. Eirik tries to wake her up, but at that moment, the same mountain man who was camouflaged hits him from behind. Inside the house, the lights start flickering, so Mikkel and Jannicke go to the basement. When Morten wakes up sometime later, he doesn't find anyone nearby. He calls for them, but no one answers. This worries him, so he gets up from the couch with difficulty and starts looking for them. In the basement, Mikkel and Jannicke are trying to fix the generator. While doing this, they find a hidden door, closed with a piece of wood. The two open the door and enter, where they find many things. They think the things belong to people who forgot them at the hotel. Walking further into the dark room, they find a room that seems to have been used recently. They also find newspaper clippings. Most talk about the boy with the scar on his face from the beginning of the film, and the headline says, "Tragedy happens again." Another newspaper has the headline, "The Evil Hotel," and they discover that the hotel where they are was abandoned 30 years ago. They don't understand how the owners have current things like caps and sunglasses. They also find things like jewelry and car keys. Since no one would leave their personal belongings like this, Mikkel and Jannik finally realize something is wrong. They decide to get out of there soon. But first, Jannicke wants to talk to Ingunn privately. But when she opens the door, she's shocked to see blood all over the floor. Meanwhile, Morten goes to the kitchen, where he finds a can of beans and tries to open it but can't. When Mikkel reaches the floor, he's startled by his friend's scream and runs to the kitchen. But Mikkel gets even more scared when he sees blood coming from under the door. He enters slowly and sees Morten lying on the floor. He had fallen trying to open the can of beans. At that moment, Jannicke arrives there worried and only says Ingunn. Jannicke takes them to the room where Mikkel finds his girlfriend's necklace on the bloody floor and gets very sad. When the three are leaving, they hear a door slam. This makes the group run into a room and lock the door. Now Jannicke explains to Morten what's happening and says they should wait for her boyfriend to come back with help, but Mikkel thinks it's a bad idea. He's sure they won't survive very long. Every minute, Mikkel gets more nervous, and when he can't stand it anymore, he decides to go out and look for his girlfriend. The others try to stop him, with Morten calling him an idiot, saying that Ingunn has been dead for a long time, but Mikael has already decided. He slowly leaves the room and goes down the stairs. Deep in his heart, he still has hope that she's alive. Getting downstairs, he grabs a sharp weapon and starts looking for Ingunn in all the rooms. He makes a lot of noise while searching. Suddenly, the big mountain man attacks him, but he manages to dodge. Mikael runs out of the house, but knows he won't be able to go very far without proper equipment. When the killer reaches the door, he doesn't see anyone. Actually, Mikael is hiding on the roof and waits quietly for the mountain man to go away. Then he runs back to his friends and tells them he saw a huge man with a big axe. After the banging stops, Mikael insists for Jannicke to run away with him while they can. He says Morten will only get in the way, so they should leave him, but Jannicke says there must be another way. Mikael says there's no other way and goes out the window running to a nearby shed, wanting to get something useful. But he gets in trouble when he steps on a bear trap and his screams alert his friends. After freeing himself from the trap, Mikael quickly enters the shed and sees the mountain man coming. He tries to hide, but the killer finds him. Mikael tries to run outside, but it's no use. In front of his friends, the killer breaks Mikael's neck, killing him instantly. Now that Jannicke and Morten have seen how dangerous the killer is, they decide to run away. She helps him leave the room, and they hide in a storage room for a while. But since it's easy to find them there, Jannicke decides to look for something useful. She leaves her injured friend in the room, promising to come back soon. When she leaves, she gets a scare, almost running into the killer, but he doesn't notice her. Jannicke goes to the same shed where Mikael died. After searching a bit, she finds a big sled, but it's too heavy to move. Then she sees something interesting, a rifle, which must belong to the mountain man. Jannicke sees that the gun works and remembers the bullet she had seen the day before, which makes her feel more confident. When she finds Morten again, she tells him her plan: attract the killer into the room where he stays and trap him using the rifle at the door. Morten doesn't understand, saying to just shoot the mountain man. Jannicke says the chance of missing is very high and asks Morten to follow her plan. She knows she only has one chance, but it's the best option. The two go to the basement, intending to lure the killer there. She hides Morten in the dark, telling him to alert when the killer enters and turns off the generator before entering the secret room alone. She gets scared seeing the key to her house on the floor. When she goes a little further, someone suddenly grabs her leg, making her very scared. It was her boyfriend, Erik, who is still alive. Jannicke is happy to see him, but when she sees he can't walk, she decides to deal with the killer problem first. Soon after, Morten hears the killer coming. He warns Jannicke with a flashlight. Morten finds a stiletto to use as protection. Soon, the killer appears with a flashlight in his hand, and Jannicke prepares to shoot. But before she can shoot, he cleverly turns off the lights, leaving everything dark. Jannicke manages to run out of the room, locking the killer inside. Morten happily says the plan worked and prepares to leave the hotel. Jannicke doesn't want to leave because her boyfriend is still alive and is trapped in the room with the killer. She decides to open the door to kill the snowman. Morten agrees. Shortly after, the killer appears again and Jannicke fires her only bullet, but misses because the killer is using Erik as a shield. The mountain man kills Erik too, being the third person he kills. Now that they're trapped, Morten courageously takes Jannicke's rifle and tells her to run. He's going to try to hold off the killer as long as he can, and Jannicke runs out of the room, leaving her friend to die. Soon after she leaves, the mountain man attacks Morten, killing him instantly. Jannicke runs out of the house and puts on her skis. She tries to escape in the thick snow in the dark, but the mountain man catches up to her easily and makes her faint. When she wakes up, she's on a sled with all her dead friends. The killer is taking them somewhere to get rid of the bodies and doesn't know that Jannicke is still alive. Soon after, he takes them to a deep hole and starts throwing the bodies one by one. While he's distracted, Jannicke finds the stiletto that Morten had found in his pocket. When the mountain man comes to get her, she stabs his chest and runs to get his axe, but the killer doesn't let her. During the fight, she reaches the edge of the hole, and it seems like she's going to fall. But then, Jannicke takes off the man's glasses from his face, making him unable to see for a moment, and also reveals his face. He is the missing boy from the beginning of the film. Taking advantage of this chance, Jannicke grabs his axe and pierces the killer's chest. The mountain man is badly hurt. As he falls, he remembers when he was a child, running in the snow. In a shocking surprise, the people who were chasing him were his own parents. Probably that's why he became such a cruel monster. And so the film ends. The fire in the hotel room was caused by him. He killed his parents for revenge. What rating would you give this movie? If you want, I can bring the sequel. The second one is very good and takes place inside a hospital with Jannicke and the killer. Don't forget to activate the bell, so see you next time.